Chair lays out House Bill 392 and recognizes Ms. Bowers to explain the bill.
Good morning. I do have some things here for you. I have a petition, about 67 pages worth, from all across the state of Texas, people who have signed this petition, but even across the nation. Also, for each member, I want you to know this is for you, Chairman Patty, but the other members will receive this electronically. There's also a letter of support from the Dove Corporation that each of you will receive, and as well a letter of support from the Crown Coalition, which is a national organization. But I want to say thank you, Chairman Patty, and members, for allowing me to lay out House Bill 392. It is an honor to bring this legislation to the Texas House and to stand before you today. House Bill 392, known as the Crown Act, prohibits race-based hair discrimination, which is the denial of employment, education, and housing opportunities because of hair texture or protective styles, including braids, locks, twist, or bantu knots. This is work, I must say, that has been going on within me and many others for more than 2 years here in Texas. The Crown Act stands for creating a respectful and open world for natural hair and is a national movement with passage already in 10 states and currently filed in many others. The history and current existence of racial discrimination should come as no surprise to any of us. As a native Texan who proudly represents a diverse community and constituency, I champion this bill that has bipartisan support, in part because it is my fundamental belief that protecting people's civil rights is the responsibility of all of us, of all lawmakers, independent of their racial identity or party affiliation. I think it is important to start with what the Crown Act is not. It is not seeking to create a new protected class. It does not interfere at all with OSHA regulations regarding workplace safety. It does not create some litigious environment where people who are not victims are motivated to file frivolous lawsuits. And really, I have to state clearly, it does not cost us anything to do this. There's no fiscal impact whatsoever to the state. And it does not harm our business community. In fact, racism has proven to be a pretty bad business model, and research reveals positive and inclusive work environments are actually much more productive. Now, let me share what this bill does. It is simply a definition bill that protects Texans. We know race is a social construct. We are all part of the human race. Racism, however, is very real. What the Crown Act does is it amends the existing definition of race, which is an existing protected class, to include those traits historically associated with it, such as hair texture and protective styles. That's it. And that's the Crown Act. I'm getting chills to my head, really. But I want y'all to know this has been a personal journey for me as well. And there have been too many cases where our students in our state have missed invaluable time in school because of this prevalent form of discrimination. And we can't be okay with that. Just can't. I was elected to serve with my hair like this. When I came here and joined you all in the legislature, my hair was pretty fried. It was fried from harsh chemicals, and I had to let it go during the pandemic. Until about the age of 8, I too wore braids. I wore 2 braids, 3 braids, and my daughter dons her braids all the time now. And if I change my hair later today, if I wet it by washing it and wearing it naturally, I would be the same member that I am and stands before you. As professional and as able to perform my job duties. I would also be subject, though, to the very discrimination that this bill seeks to end. That, colleagues, is the essence of what this is about. In a climate where hyperpartisanship is too often the standard, I am asking for every one of you and everyone in the body to stand with me against what's wrong and up for what's right. With that, Mr. Chairman and members, I believe I have some people here to testify, but I would like to reserve the right to close.
Certainly. Members, any questions of Ms. Bowers at this time? Thank you, Ms. Bowers. We will reserve your right to close and call up some witnesses. I think we have a couple of virtual witnesses first that we'll start with, and then those that are in person here today. The chair calls Lisa Barrett. Good morning, Ms. Barrett. If you would state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill, please. Can you hear us, Ms. Barrett?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes, if you would state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill, please.
Absolutely. Good morning, Chairman Patty, Vice Chair Hernandez, and members of the committee. My name is Lisa Kyler Barrett. I'm the Director of Policy at the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, or LDF. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning, and I'm here in support of House Bill 392. LDF was founded in 1940 by Thurgood Marshall, who later became the first U.S. Supreme Court Justice. During the 81 years since its inception, LDF has used litigation, advocacy, public education to promote full, equal, and active citizenship for Black Americans. Consistent with its mission, LDF has been at the front lines of opposing policies that have a discriminatory impact on Black people because of specific characteristics, including hair type. These racial proxies are employed to limit the mobility of Black people in public and private spaces and strike at the freedom and dignity of Black people. We are pleased with the action that Representative Bowers has taken in introducing House Bill 392 to protect natural hair and to root out racial proxies. Anti-Black racism can take many forms. One persistent form is targeting Black people based on hair texture and or styles inextricably linked to Black identity. Policies and practices that target the natural hair texture and styles of Black people are discriminatory because they are intimately connected to a protected class of individuals and are often derived from invidious stereotypes. For years, Black Americans have been subjected to the financial, psychological, dignitary, and other harms through the policing of these inaccurate stereotypes. In the last few years alone, LDF challenged a hair policy in a Boston area charter school that denied Maya and Deanna Cook the right to wear braid extensions at their school. We obtained public records and demanded institutional change concerning an incident in which Andre Johnson, a Black high school student in New Jersey, was forced to cut his hair in order to compete in a high school wrestling match. We filed an administrative complaint with the Florida Department of Education on behalf of a 6-year-old student, Clinton Stanley Jr., who was denied entry on his first day of school because he wore his hair in locks. And most recently, LDF initiated litigation there in Texas on behalf of our client, Mr. DeAndre Arnold, who was told that he would be required to cut his locks or would no longer be able to participate in regular classes and school activities, including his graduation ceremony. Mr. Arnold will testify later in the hearing. Almost 50 years ago, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, recognized that natural hair discrimination constituted race discrimination. In a 1971 decision, the EEOC concluded that race discrimination encompassed an employer's prohibition of Afro hairstyles. Racist stereotypes about the appropriateness or acceptability of Black hair continue to permeate social environments, including school and at work. It is deeply disturbing that Black citizens must still fight for undisrupted, unbiased opportunities. And we therefore strongly support House Bill 392 and urge passage of this important legislation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Members, are there any questions? Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Chair calls Adria Asamoah. If you could please turn on your video. Good morning. If you'll please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair Patty, Vice Chair Hernandez, and esteemed members of the State Affairs Committee. My name is Adria B Asamoah, and I am proud to be the All Things Racial Equity Champion. Are you unable to see me?
We can see you and hear you. If you'll please state who you represent and your position on the bill, and you may continue.
Are you not able to see and hear me?
We can hear you. We can see you.
You can hear and see me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm hearing, there seems to be a delay.
If you can please turn off the live feed if you have that on a different device.
Okay. Are you able to hear me clearly?
We can hear you, we can see you, but we're getting some back noise. I think you might have the committee playing on a different device.
Okay, my apologies. Again, good morning, Chair Patty, Vice Chair Hernandez, and the esteemed members of the committee. My name is Adria B Asamoah, and I am proud to be the All Things Racial Equity Champion, who not only developed the legislative strategy for the Crown Act, but who leads the nationwide grassroots advocacy efforts to pass it on behalf of the Crown Coalition. I am here today to testify in full support of HB 392. For additional context, all of my work is rooted in fighting anti-Blackness and advancing racial equity, which is what this movement is about for me personally, in addition to shifting both policy and culture. Racial discrimination in the form of hair discrimination is much more prevalent than many people who have not been on the receiving end of this type of discrimination may think. We know because it's documented, there have been countless cases where Black people have been discriminated against for wearing natural hair and or protective styles, including but not limited to braids, locks, twists, bantu knots, afros, etc. Hair discrimination includes being fired, passed over for promotions, and even having offers of employment rescinded. It impacts the upward mobility of individuals and families affected, and it has been the reason far too many children have had negative educational experiences. As I think about the work I've done at the local, state, and federal levels that has received overwhelming bipartisan support where it's passed, I think about a student who was sent home in tears because she wore beautiful braids that were deemed a violation of school rules. I think about a brilliant student in Texas, who you'll hear from, who was told he could not participate and his high school graduation ceremony with his friends because of his locks that clearly did not grow overnight and are a display of such pride. And I think about a student wrestler who was forced to make a decision he should have never been tasked with making, and to choose between having his locks cut and identity attacked in front of everyone, or forfeiting a match he had earned the right to participate in. I wear a few hats, and Vice Chair Hernandez may, with a degree in psychology, may appreciate knowing one of those is as a licensed therapist and someone who started in K-12 education, who also earned licenses as a pupil personnel worker and a psychometrist. And I hold an active license as a behavior specialist. I share that only because I know the harm negative school climate and culture can do, and I know the psychological impact of being told essentially that the way you were born is not okay, is something no child should ever have to endure. The damage to one's self-esteem can be long-lasting, and perceptions of self-worth can be impacted, all in ways that simply shouldn't exist. Curly hair and darker skin, characteristics historically defined as Blackness, have been deemed inferior by many. Conversely, features historically defined as whiteness have been deemed superior, especially in professional settings. This sort of racial discrimination is just plain wrong, but it is encouraged by these purportedly race-neutral grooming and dress code policies in workplaces that enforce a Eurocentric image of professional hair. African hair and features are beautiful, and our right to rock our crowns in protective styles and or naturally, whether blown out like mine is today or in twists like mine was just 3 weeks ago, that right must be protected. No person should feel like they have to use harmful chemicals to alter themselves to thrive. Eurocentric standards of beauty that perpetuate inequity and injustice in schools and in workplaces and other spaces warrant a legislative fix. The Crown Act is just that. So on behalf of the Crown Coalition, co-founded by Dove and the National Urban League and others, including support from so many nonpartisan organizations like the NAACP, the YWCA, and others like the ACLU and Anti-Defamation League, U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce, and even the American Academy of Pediatrics and SEIU. I look forward to your support of and vote for HB 392, known as the Crown Act. Thank you for your time today, committee members, and thank you to the committee staff that allowed us to participate virtually.
Members, are there any questions? All right. Thank you very much for your testimony today.
Thank you for having me.
The chair calls Stephanie Boyce. If you'll please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
Yes, hello. Mr. Chairman and distinguished members of the committee, I am Dr. Stephanie Boyce. I am a professor and entrepreneur in Dallas, Texas, and a fellow in the Texas Education Policy Institute. More importantly, I'm a Texas girl through and through. Today, I'm testifying for House Bill 392. Imagine for a second that I was granted the authority to create and enforce a policy requiring each of you today to wear your hair either braided, locked, twisted, or in a curly afro in order to participate in today's hearings, as I deem those professional and appropriate hairstyles to wear today. The mere thought of such an unthinkable policy might confuse you on its face. It might even make you confused. How would you make your hair as straight as it is lock? What chemical processes may be required of you to be able to create that curly fro I've required of you today? More importantly, do you even want to participate if you can't just show up naturally as you are? While this scenario may seem extreme to you, it is the exact problem many Black people face today. However, we can't look at the present moment without considering the dark history of our country's past. The truth is, America has a long and terrible history of inspecting, appraising, devaluing, and forcefully assimilating Black bodies. This centering of Eurocentric values, This centering of Eurocentric values disregarded the Black body and any African-centered physical features as animalistic and thus in need of taming. The stain of that legacy lives on in the minds and policies we see, even though the hairstyles have no bearing on our ability to actually show up and perform our academic and professional jobs every day in Texas. Many Black people have to simply decide, are we going to comply with policies that are weaponized against our Blackness in order to keep our jobs, in order to have our children be able to get an education in this great state of Texas? We take pride in ensuring here that citizens are allowed to have their individual rights and personal freedoms. Nothing can be more intrusive than having discriminatory policies policing your body. I urge the distinguished members of the committee to support this bill and ensure that no one infringes upon the rights of Texans for simply being who they are. After all, you have the right to do that every single day. Thank you.
And to clarify for the record, you're here representing yourself?
I am here representing myself.
Thank you. Members, any questions? All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
The chair calls Hope Cozart.
Hello. Good morning. I'm Hope Cozart, and I'm here to express from a parent's perspective as to why the Crown Act is so important. My son Maddox, who is a great student, polite, respectful, was put in school suspension for 11 days, all because of his hairstyle. 11 days of being pulled out of his class and away from his peers. 11 days of him being examined by multiple educators and being deemed inappropriate to attend class with his peers. I even tried different hairstyles to appease them with little to no luck. In the past month alone, we've only had one hairstyle approved, and it was because, and I quote, "it laid down." As of Monday, my son is still being punished. He is now in lunch detention for the same type of hairstyle. And they're saying because it doesn't lay down. And yes, that's the phrasing the school administrators have used. We are currently working towards change at our school in its outdated dress code, but we all know how reluctant Texans can be to change. But the Crown Act will bring about a positive change and will help prevent any other families to be put through what my family and I are currently experiencing. Our children should go to school to learn, not be judged by adults we entrust them with. Thank you for your time.
And you're here representing yourself in
And
favor
my
of the
son.
bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chair calls Tashara Parker.
Good morning, Chairman Patty and other distinguished members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you, and many thanks to Representative Bowers and every representative who has signed on to support House Bill 392, the Crown Act here in Texas. My name is Tashara Parker. I am a broadcast journalist in Dallas. I support House Bill 392. I'm here speaking solely in an individual capacity with the full support of my employer that encourages me to wear my hair any way I choose to do so. We just want to exist naturally, fully. A video of mine has been viewed more than 1 million times online. In that video, I asked the world, why does my crown, my hair, offend you? I recorded that video after receiving numerous comments about a hairstyle I was wearing on TV at the time, very similar to this one. One email from a viewer even read, Why don't you make your hair straight again? We found you quite attractive that way. Another viewer comment said this, that hairstyle just isn't professional for broadcasting. So that led me to ask the question, who determines what's professional in the workplace or in schools? Are we just relying on old, outdated policies that likely weren't developed by a lot of people who look like me? Imagine, just for a second, looking at a woman with straight, natural, blonde hair and telling her your hair isn't professional. You know, that likely wouldn't happen. You know why? Because we are conditioned to accept a certain standard of beauty. And for a long time, dating back well into slavery, when my ancestors were brought here, natural hair and hairstyles didn't meet that established beauty standard. You know, I became a journalist to be a voice for the community. After I shared that viral video, men, women, and children around the world opened up about their own personal experiences with hair trauma. With the support of my station, my TV series, Rooted, shares stories of people who have experienced hair discrimination. One episode featured Judge Amber Gibbons, a black woman who was told that the reason she might lose an election was because her hair might offend voters. Or what about a local police officer in North Texas, yes, who approached me about what he felt was hair discrimination against him because of his braided cornrow hairstyle in the workplace. This quote, and I want you to listen to it clearly, it was taken from the findings of an internal affairs investigation about him. It says, the officer was observed wearing an unprofessional, unapproved hairstyle. By the way, that hairstyle, it was listed as braided or cornrows. Not only will passing HB 392, the Crown Act, make it clear to the world that representation matters, it will boldly declare to an entire generation that it is okay to show up fully, authentically, in all spaces. House Bill 392 is about more than hair. Just think about it. If the moment when I asked the world, why does my crown offend you, inspired hundreds, some even thousands, to stand in solidarity, posting pictures of themselves wearing their natural hair, what do you think would happen? If black men, women, and young children were all able to show up the same way, unapologetically comfortable in our own skin, rocking our own natural hair, no matter how kinky or coily the style, without fear of who we might offend. Not only will we create a more inclusive environment for our coworkers, our friends, but we will also show the world that our state, the state of Texas, does not tolerate any form of discrimination. Throughout my years as a student at Texas A&M University, I learned to approach difficult conversations head on. I took that into my adult life as well. And I hope you will join me and do the same, realizing the Crown Act is necessary legislation. Again, thank you for the opportunity and allowing me to be here with you today. I look forward to your positive support of this bill. I'll stick around if there are any questions. Thank you.
Members, are there any questions? Thank you for being here today. The chair calls Aisha Davis.
Good morning. You were close. It's Aisha.
Sorry.
Well, good morning. My name is Aisha Davis. I'm a member of the Texas State Board of Education. I represent District 13, which is Dallas and Tarrant counties. And I'm very much in support of the Crown Act. And I thank you all so much for listening to this important piece of legislation. I want to tell you, I follow education bills, and this is absolutely one of the most important. Can I take this off? Okay. This is one of the most important bills when it comes to equity for students. I thank you all for being champions, for listening to the bill, and I really, really hope that you support it and pass it. When it gets to the floor, I hope you speak in support of it so that all of our students get to stay in school, in class, learning everything they can. So I do want to share a couple of facts with you today. First of all, I also want to thank Representative Bowers for being a champion for authoring this bill. So in Texas, there are about 684,000 African American students. They are given 195,000 in-school suspension citations last year alone, and about 92,000 out-of-school suspensions. Now, the problem with that is 90% of those are because they violated a local code of conduct. So not because they brought a gun to school or drugs or fighting or anything like that. It's because of some rule that was put together by a board or however else, and it was against these students, and they've been over-disciplined. So when you look at STAR scores, you see African American students who are scoring lower than the majority of their colleagues, and they call them achievement gaps. But those aren't achievement gaps, those are opportunity gaps. Because when those students are in ISS or in out-of-school suspension, they aren't able to get that authentic engagement from their teachers. So this helps keep more of our students in class and helps them to learn to be able to do whatever it is they desire to do. I do also want to share that this bill is highly supported by several organizations which are strong supporters of public education. That includes the Texas State Teachers Association with about 55,000 members, and the Texas Education Policy Institute, which advocates for children of color all around Texas. Both of these organizations have reached out to me in very, very strong support of this bill. And I will also say we did discuss this amongst us at the State Board of Education, and we were very disappointed that there was nothing that we could personally do to make sure that students didn't have this type of discrimination, and they did get to stay at home a little bit more. In class more. I do want to share a quote from one of my colleagues, Member Georgina Perez from El Paso. As Texans, our diversity is a source of both beauty and strength. Every student and every employee should be proud to wear their hair in a way that serves both practical purposes as well as a symbol of cultural identity. I am proud to stand with my colleagues in support of the Crown Act to end discrimination based on natural hair. I also want to tell a little bit about my own story. I do have natural hair myself. When I was running for the State Board of Education, I was a teacher. And I was told I would need to get a perm and wear my hair really straight if I wanted to run for office. But I wanted to be my authentic self, so I kept my natural hair. And once I won, every single time I go to a board meeting, I wear my hair different. Sometimes you'll see me with twists, sometimes you'll see me with a blowout, but I made sure that when I took my professional picture with all of my colleagues, I wore locks because I wanted to be memorialized, and I want every little student of African descent to see that one black woman that's on the State Board of Education wore a natural hairstyle. So maybe that is okay. And literally, when I leave here in like 10 minutes, I'm going to submit my last assignment towards my PhD in Ed Leadership and Policy. So I've been able to earn a doctorate, become a member of the State Board of Education, and do all of these things with natural hair. So I sincerely ask you to allow our students to be able to thrive and have the same opportunity. So thank you all again so much for hearing this bill. I'm excited for it to move through the session, and if there's anything else I can do to help support it, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. And to clarify, you're here representing yourself?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Members, any questions? All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
The chair calls DeAndre Arnold.
Good morning, Chairman Patty, Vice Chair Hernandez, and the members of the committee. My name is DeAndre Arnold, and I'm here to testify in favor of HB 392. I'm a student at Louisiana State University. While attending Barbers Hill High School in Mont Belvieu, Texas, I experienced hair discrimination. My hair is an integral part of my identity and my West Indian heritage. My father is from Trinidad, and many of the men on my father's side of the family wear locks. I've always worn my locks out of respect for my heritage. My heritage is an important part of who I am and is what makes me, me. My hair has never had anything to do with my behavior or capacity to learn. But my high school's grooming policy denied me equal education and extracurricular opportunities, including the opportunity to graduate with my peers. I never knew that my identity would hold me back from graduating with friends that I knew since elementary school. Policies like Barbers Hill High School's profile, single out, and disproportionately burden Black people for wearing natural hairstyles and styles intimately connected with Black identities. Discrimination against Black hair is an issue of education equity. By enforcing this policy, the school punished me for my hair, removed me from the classroom, and interrupted my education. My hope is that no other student will be penalized for being proud of their heritage and being who they are. Every kid deserves to go to school and be themselves at the same time. I hope the Texas legislature passes the Crown Act so that going forward there are legal measures in place to protect Black people from hair discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. And to clarify, you're here on behalf of yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair recognizes Ms. Howard. But if you'll...
Andre?
Um,
Sorry, I
Oh,
just,
sorry.
no, it's fine. I just wanted to thank you for coming and testifying, and I'm sorry for the experience you had to go through, but very proud of the fact that you are using that to try to make the world a better place for others. And I know you must be proud of yourself, as your family must be of you. So thank you for being
Oh,
here
yeah,
today.
thank you. Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Yes. Chair recognizes Mr. Harless.
Yeah, I too want to apologize for what happened to you and congratulate you on your success, and we look forward to watching your future. I think it's going to be very bright.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for being here
Thank
today. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against the bill? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Bowers to close on the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody that, first members for hearing the Crown Act today, but thank you to everyone that has come so far to testify and for being a part of this journey, regardless of how you had to enter it. DeAndre mentioned his West Indian heritage, and what many of you may not know is that my father was also from St. George's, Grenada. And I want you to know that I fangirled out on DeAndre. So thank you, Representative Howard, for mentioning his courage. I want you to know that when Hair Love won an Academy Award in the summer after my first session here, when the call came from Adria B Asamoah in D.C. to bring the Crown Act to Texas, I really told her I didn't think we were ready. I really didn't. And y'all know on the House floor the other day, I was in tears at the thought of Chairman Patty and the committee deciding to hear this bill, because I just didn't see this day. So thank y'all so much. And DeAndre, when you wore that tuxedo, I ran through the house. I need you to know, I ran through the house, so that's how I knew that's the tuxedo you wore to the Oscars. So thank y'all for letting me have this moment and us have this moment and us have this time and conversation together. Members, my grandmother used to always say that your crown is your glory, and you must take care of it and protect it. I believe how the hair naturally grows out of my head should have nothing to do with what is inside it, and therefore, any of the success I can accomplish. The time is now for Texas to take up this civil rights legislation and protect people from racial discrimination. I thank all of you for giving us this moment once again and for the support that you've given even prior to this day. And I ask for your favorable consideration. I'm open to questions. I will continue to work with the people, Aisha Davis, Tashara Parker, thank you for Rooted, Dr. Boyce. We will continue this work, and I'm just so grateful again for this moment. So if there are any questions, I'm open, and with that, I close if there are none.
Are there any questions? All right. Thank you, Representative Bowers.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. There's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the bill is left pending. The chair lays out HJR 152. The chair offers up a committee substitute and recognizes Representative Rainey to explain the resolution.